Alright, hello everyone, and welcome back to another Mirror Dungeon solo video. Today we're using Philip Sinclair, because, you know, after Don Quixote's identity with her ego manifestation, it's like, I've been inspired to revisit the original who sort of introduced that concept of manifesting ego during battle. And it's like, honestly, I've been wanting to revisit this identity for a while now, but I just never really got around to it because, I don't know. I'm just busy doing other stuff, I guess, but in any case, he's pretty cool. Obviously, his whole mechanic is about, you know, after you reach 40 sanity, I think it is, he then manifests his partial ego and gains a bunch of buffs, to be honest. More buffs than Don Quixote, honestly. Because he gets an extra coin on his skill 1, his skill 2 gets extra attack weight, and then his skill 3 becomes like extraordinarily powerful, whereas, you know, Don Quixote, she only really gets like her skill 3 empowered and then a bunch of damage modifiers, and that's basically it. So yeah, I think Sinclair definitely wins in the contest of which one is cooler, in my opinion. At least from a gameplay perspective anyways. Of course, it's like, he also, one of the other big things about him is that his debuff of like constant sanity draining is a lot worse for him specifically because, well, both of them have the sanity reduction upon using their skills, except for Sinclair. He doesn't actually consume any sanity at all upon using his skill 1. That's the one major difference. Is that like Sinclair also has a constant sanity drain at the end of the turn, which is the biggest thing that makes him actually a lot harder to play solo. Because as you'll see in this video, as we go further into it, like, if you're fighting any enemy with even the smallest amount of like sanity reduction, it becomes very, very difficult to manage this identity. Let me just say that much. As for this first fight, it's like, it was fairly difficult to get through the first like turn because there's a lot of rupture and blunt damage, so staying alive is difficult, but we managed. We get into Hell's Chicken for the next floor, where we find the Manor-shaped music box, Lobotomy Pack, Helterfly's Dream, Devil's Share, Emerald Elytra, and another skill 2 before making it to the boss against Papa Bongi. So Papa Bongi, definitely the easiest fight in this entire run. Like, we're not going all the way to floor 10 this time because, I don't know, I just, after playing through this entire run, I just decided, like, I think this is good enough. 5 floors is good enough to showcase this identity, especially because the floors that we picked after this one, of course, are actually fairly difficult. But in any case, Papa Bongi, not that hard. He doesn't do anything, and then he's also weak to slash damage, or at least the head chickens are. So it's like, with the extra attack weight from Sinclair's skill 2, yeah, we're not any threat whatsoever. Even though we are fatal to blunt damage, of course. Because, yeah, as you can see, he can just target down Papa Bongi and he ends up killing all the head chickens anyways. We head into Hatred and Despair for the next floor, where we find the Hot and Juicy Drumstick, the Knight's Blessing, My Queen's Lovely Gift, and Sundered Memory before making it to the boss against the Knight of Despair. So, yeah, as I was previously mentioning, like, any fight that has sanity reduction is actually very difficult for this identity to beat. because not only does it like, because he loses his ego state if he drops below 0 sanity, right? And that's a very big deal because he gets a massive power boost by just simply being in his ego state. And not only that, but it's like the constant sanity draining combined with the natural sanity draining of the specific enemies, in this case the Knight of Despair. It's like, it becomes very, very difficult to actually win clashes consistently. And that's a problem, because if you lose a clash, you're also losing sanity because of the sinking on you. So it's just, it's a compounding effect where you lose a clash, you lose sanity, you're more likely to lose another clash afterwards, and you lose even more sanity. And it just ends up, really, it just ends up spiraling out of control very quickly. Because yeah, as you can see, we lose a clash, and then we lose another clash, and because it's specifically the skill 3, we lose even more sanity, and it's not pretty. It's not pretty at all. That's basically game over right there on the spot. So, second attempt, we get slightly better by just not using a skill 1, you know. The reason we failed that last time is because I used a skill 1 and then just, you know, random lost clash equals instant death. This time, with no skill 1, we don't lose the clash, we don't lose the sanity, and the skill 3 is now capable of winning the clash. And so we don't get instantly staggered and killed. Who knew that if you just don't use your weakest skill to try and win a clash, you'll end up winning the fight. Except to say that we won the fight would be a lie. Because the biggest problem, like I mentioned at the very start, is the sanity reduction. Because yeah, as you can see, even though we won every clash, we lose the ego state. And that's a very, very big deal. Because losing the ego state means that our clash power becomes much lower, and without any sanity, yeah, we can't do anything. So second fight, also a failure. Third attempt though, this is the actual successful one, and the reason why is because we enter into the second phase of the Knight of Despair when she summons her sword with 4 skills instead of only 3. And the only reason why we did this is because I used a skill 1 in the first half, which was enough. It was enough hold on, I can't speak. It was enough damage to avoid staggering her on turn 2, so that we could then stagger her on turn 3 instead, and thus we can delay the phase transition an extra turn. And that is the biggest thing right there, because the real problem of this fight is the sinking that the Knight of Despair inflicts upon us. And so by simply having an extra skill to clash with on this next turn, that means we inevitably take less sinking damage, and that means our sanity will be higher at the end of it, and we'll be able to maintain the ego form. Honestly, if you want a free win for this identity, just find Faith as quickly as possible, and then, like, pretty much all of his problems are gone instantly. Of course, not all of them, because there is the, you know, natural sanity reduction from the skills that happens still, you know, but it becomes substantially less of an issue. Which is exactly why we're not picking it up. And it's definitely not because I just never found it. But anyways, yeah, now that we, once you basically destroy the first sword of the Knight of Despair, it's like, the rest of the fight is pretty free, to be honest. Because that means you get 2 less skills you need to clash against, 2 less attacks that are coming at you, and you just win basically. Of course, it's always lucky if the queen can help you out and redirect the clash here and there. So that's always nice. When she gets good speed, that is. Doesn't always happen, because sometimes, like, when she gets good speed, it's like she ends up targeting the sword you want to destroy on that turn, and that's kind of a waste. Or she just rolls low speed and can't redirect the clash at all. Still, though, losing a clash here or there is kind of unavoidable, you know. It sucks that, you know, it happens at the very end, but it's like, it also doesn't matter at this point, really. Yes, we lose the ego state because of that lost clash, but it's like, the Knight of Despair is also staggered, so it doesn't really matter. As long as you get her down below 600 HP, it's like, the queen finishes her off. Your actual, like, sanity doesn't matter at this point. Honestly, one thing I would have done differently in hindsight is I would have definitely brought Endcorp Faust for a passive, which I didn't do. I don't know why I didn't do it, but it definitely would have made this fight a lot, or not this fight, but like every fight a lot easier. We head into the Evil Defining for the next floor, where we find Spent Use Forming Hate, Greycoat, 4-Leaf Clover, and Resolution, before making it to the boss against Ahab. Now, Ahab is also not a difficult fight, like, she never is, really. I mean, the simple fact that she only has 3 skills on the first turn of the fight is enough on its own to just basically trivialize her entire encounter. Because you can basically clash with everything, and thus you take no damage at all. Of course, I say that under the assumption that you can actually roll heads. But yeah, just like the last fight, the biggest problem in this one is the constant sanity drain. It's less so an issue in this fight because Ahab doesn't really have natural sanity reduction until her 3rd phase with the shield. If you hit her if you hit her shield in the 3rd phase, then she reduces sanity. But other than that, it's like she doesn't do any sanity reduction. So it's basically all on ourselves. And this right here is actually the biggest reason why it's like the sanity reduction is so bad, is because in between each of her phases, you know, whenever she gets staggered, you have to waste a turn basically doing nothing but losing sanity. And there's almost no way to avoid it unless you want to just skip the turn. But even if you're doing that, you're still losing sanity because, you know, that's just how Philip Sinclair works. He loses sanity at the end of the turn every time when he's in the ego state. So it's like, yeah, you could wait the extra turn and do no damage, and you will end up losing less sanity, but you're still losing sanity. You know, it's unavoidable. And yeah, it happens like... It is unavoidable. And as you can see, like, yeah, we missed a lot of coin rolls because of it. And that means that we don't actually do enough damage to force her into her phase 3. But even worse than that is I didn't manage the sanity properly and accidentally corroded. Completely unintentional, by the way. Like, there's no point in corroding here. Absolutely no point. Of course, I'm just gonna skip through most of the corrosions because it doesn't matter. And like, this echoing cry right here is nasty. That is a painful attack right there. And it's like, I probably could have avoided it if I actually spent the time to look for one of the egos to clash against it. But you know, that's how the win rate button works. You just get what you get. And ugh. Even though we have the Queen of Hatred's ego gifts, which makes it so that you regain sanity at the end of a corrosion, it's like, it doesn't matter. We had a 70% chance to roll tails there, or a 70% chance to roll heads there, and every single one of the 12 coins rolled tails. Horribly unlucky. If we just won those clashes, that fight was very easily winnable, but nope. Couldn't do it. But here in the situation where we have even less sanity, it's like our odds of winning the clash are 10 times more likely. This game's hilarious. 70% chance to roll heads, you hit none of them. But a 50% chance you hit like all of them.
기다리는 거 못해. 100초만 기다려줄게. 당신의 판단을 따를게요.
But yeah, this is where the Ahab's, you know, the sanity reduction upon the shield hit is kind of an issue. It's not really that big of a deal, though, to be honest. Because her shield is so little, it's like you can get rid of it fairly easily, and then you have max sanity, but unfortunately, yeah, max sanity doesn't stop the 5%. Honestly, this is a pretty lucky turn here, because that attack, it instantly staggers you, and apparently it bypasses Sinclair's, like, anti-stagger effect when manifesting ego, so yeah, if the burn was any lower than what it was, Ahab wouldn't have gotten staggered with us, and that we probably would have died again, so pretty lucky turn there. I'm kind of unlucky because we just lost the clash that should have been a win in the first place, but that's beside the point. We head into LCB regular checkup for the next floor, where we find the Hag's Leg, Dust to Dust, Decamillennial Stewpot, Combustion Gloves, the Decamillennial Hearthflame, Pain of Stifled Rage, Ardent Flower, and the Broken Greatsword, before making it to the boss against Hohenheim. Hohenheim is a pretty scary fight, if I'm being completely honest. Like, obviously, the scariest thing about him is the constant, like, reflect damage he does. It's like 15% of the damage you deal is reflected back, which is pretty bad if you don't have reliable healing. But of course, we have Grey Coat and also Phlebotomy Pack, which absolutely hard carry this fight. Let me just say that much. Without them, we probably would have lost. But it's like, at this point, I've replaced most of the skill ones. I only mentioned one of them in the video, but we did replace 2 of them. One of them was replaced on the first floor, so. But anyways, that makes it so that actually healing with Greycoat is pretty inconsistent, because yeah, we don't have a whole lot of skilled ones, which is the only source of Greycoat healing we have, other than egos, of course, which, you know, this is Sinclair, so we always have Lantern there in the back to bail us out if we need it. But honestly, the bigger problem with this fight, and one that I quickly realized, like, is the sanity drain that Hohenheim inflicts every single turn, right? Because he drains 10 sanity every single turn, no matter what, at the end of the turn. And obviously, as previously mentioned, Sinclair needs to be at 40 sanity in order to manifest his ego, but Yeah, Hohenheim always makes him capped out at 35 at the end of a turn, which means he can never manifest ego unless you turn off that passive. So, yeah, up until turn 5, manifesting ego is literally impossible in this fight. Up until you get that skill check and, yeah, turn off the sanity reduction passive, so. That definitely caught me off guard a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. Of course, most of this fight is just basically managing the healing from Phlebotomy Pack and Greycoat, making sure you don't take too much damage from attacking Hohenheim, and then healing back whenever you can. The skill 3 absolutely chunks your health bar, by the way. It takes like 40 health off every time you do it. But yeah, Hohenheim is basically a massive battle of attrition fight. And right here, it's like, I attempted to only use a single skill in that turn to try and like win a clash against Hohenheim and yeah, get more sanity healing that way, but the burn damage said otherwise because yeah, he just got staggered and I basically wasted a full turn doing nothing for no reason. At least the rolls then in the previous turn were pretty decent, so not that bad. Winning this clash is really lucky, although it is completely unnecessary too, because we just need to do like 20 damage to Hohenheim, and the burn damage finishes him off, so I was perfectly okay losing that clash. It basically would have done nothing anyways, so. Pretty lucky fight at the end there.
확실한 승리였어요. 돌아가면 저번처럼 홈파티라도 할까요?
And that's how I beat Mirror Dungeon 6 hard using only Dawn Office Sinclair. Obviously, only 5 floors today. I don't feel like going any deeper, to be honest, because I don't know, those two fights specifically against the Knight of Despair and Ahab, I think they were pretty good. Pretty good showcase of what this identity could do. Going any deeper would be kind of unnecessary, to be honest. Anyway, that's it for me. Like and subscribe for more videos like this one. Goodbye.